I didn't go to college. I went to federal prison. Not exactly what my parents had in mind, but hey, I came out with a trade. It all started with my 21st birthday in Las Vegas, followed by a quickie wedding to a stranger on the Strip, and ended in a 2-month crime spree, which included 4 bank robberies. So yes, I'm a bank robber, a former bank robber. Prison was in Texas, and while I was in there, I joined the cosmetology program, because nothing says rehabilitation like giving highlights in a maximum security facility. When I was released, I moved back to Tulsa with my new federally funded beauty school degree and a cute little ankle monitor, and I got a job in a hair salon. One day, a woman walked in and ended up setting me up on a blind date that changed the entire course of my life. But first, let me back up, because to understand why this blind date was so life-altering, you first need to understand my taste in men. So a typical date for me back in the day, if you can even call it that, was usually with guys that looked like they had just walked out of a mosh pit. You know the type. They're a little dirty, chains dangling from their jeans, maybe even a spiked collar. So hot. Sometimes these guys even lived in their cars or didn't have a car. So why did I date guys like this? The short answer is alcoholism. But the longer answer is I had a deep toxic attraction to chaos. If it was a bad decision, I was sprinting toward it like I was training for a marathon. So one of these dates was with a guy who checked all the boxes for me. No job, no car, all of his worldly possessions stuffed into one black trash bag. After being together for about 10 days, I married him. And that situation escalated quickly. Before I knew it, me and this pill-popping, meth-snorting, pathological liar were sitting in handcuffs on an airplane, arrested by the FBI for a bank robbery gone wrong. So now that you're all caught up, back to my blind date. I was 24 years old and fresh out of prison, attempting to stay sober. I was seeing a counselor, a probation officer, and a 12-step sponsor, so you would think that I had no time to date, but you'd be wrong. One day, this woman walked in, and she wanted a haircut, and so she sat in my chair, and I got to work. We made small talk. She left. She went to pick her husband up from work, called his coworker over to the car, and gave this guy my business card. And she said something like, "You should call this girl." So when he did, I was hesitant for obvious reasons given my history, but my friends convinced me and I agreed to meet him under the strict condition that we meet in a very public place. So a couple of days later, I walk into the Starbucks and there he is, tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, wearing a freshly ironed button-down shirt, just looking very clean cut. And I immediately thought, this is never gonna work because he's not my type. But we sat down to talk, and while I was trying to figure out I was gonna break it to him that I've just gotten out of prison for bank robbery, he starts sharing about his past. And moment of truth, Mr. Clean Cut All-American is actually a formerly homeless heroin junkie. I was thrilled. I've always thought heroin junkies were hot. Homeless was a bonus. I was so excited I almost threw my leg up on the table to flash my ankle monitor, which he also thought was very hot. So we were basically inseparable from that moment on. And I found out he had a job and a car and an apartment, and he was also sober and really committed to his recovery. So at one point, he told me that if we were gonna keep dating, I would need to meet his 12-step sponsor. And I said, that's fine, because I really need you to meet my probation officer. Those meetings went well, so we kept dating, and eventually we got married, and blind date success story. We've actually been together now about 15 years, and we have 2 beautiful daughters who have never seen either of their parents drunk or high. But the real moment of truth is still to come, I think, when I'm gonna have to tell those girls what stone cold gangsters their parents used to be. But really, that might be a hard conversation. I don't know. They're still young, so we haven't crossed that bridge yet. Their favorite thing to do right now is to play this game called Roblox. And if you're not familiar, it's kind of like The Sims. It's like a virtual world where you can change your avatar and buy a house, whatever. So they were playing this game in the living room the other day, and my youngest called out to me, "Hey, Mom, want to see me rob the bank?" My heart stopped. Honestly, my first thought was, oh shit, is this hereditary? I had no idea that you could rob a bank in this game. So when I collected myself, I calmly replied, "Sure, babe, show me." And I stood watching as she set a bomb, blew open the vault, and sprinted out with a bag of digital cash. And I just stood there shaking my head thinking, well, kiddo, that's not exactly how I do it.